Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, Butlers Customs. So in this episode, I'm building a 1973 Honda CB100 cafe racer / rat style. I'm really pumped about this. I've got free reign to do whatever I want with this build. The customer's open to my ideas. The only thing he's really asked for is black and red to be incorporated into the paint job somehow. So I'm really pumped. This build's a pretty old one. It's been sort of done in the past. But yeah, we're going to freshen everything up and replace everything basically for new or customize it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. To replace this tank. The tank's pretty rusted out on the inside and it has a massive dent in the side here. The dent's not an issue, but it's the rust, because once we clean that rust out of the tank, it potentially flakes off and then it thins out the metal, and you think you've got a good tank and you'll go and paint it, and then you'll get pinholes in the paint job and it's porous almost, and it bubbles up your paint. So sometimes we can put a tank liner kit through, but we need to clean out this rust. So if I get a torch and shine a torch down in there, you can probably see how dark and rusty it is. So all of this is rusty metal. We may have to either cut it open or clean it out and test it by filling it with compressed air. So the next step, we're going to cut all these spokes off and we're going to replace the rims, tires, spokes. These spokes are structurally not sound because they're rusted. They're basically weakened, so we need to replace them for safety purposes. The front forks here, someone's obviously blasted these at some point to potentially try and repair them, so they're all going to have to be sandblasted again. New seals that need to be put in. We may need to get the fork legs re-chromed, and you can see they're very weak and soft, so they'll need new fork oil and new seals. Also in the box here, we've got a box of parts from the customer. So our top clamp for the triple tree, all of this will need to get blasted and polished or powder coated depending on what way we go. Same with the chain guard. So this has potentially been started in the past because things have been blasted. Dodgy welds here on the side stand we'll have to fix. So I'll sift through all these parts. So basically, as I said, this is going to be a cafe racer / brat style. So we're going to run like a dirt bike style bar just to get the owner sitting upright, more so than sitting forward and having the weight in his wrist like a cafe racer with clip-on bars. A flat style seat, flat black down the top of the tank I think, and then on the sides we're going to go like a deep red burgundy with a gold stripe around it and potentially do these badges gold. That may change, we'll see, but that's the plan for this point in time. So the first step for us is to go through and cut all of these tabs off and smooth the frame right out and work out what we do and don't need and get it all cleaned up, ready for powder coat, put a hoop on the back, etc. And then we'll paint strip this tank, look at that, cut the spokes off and start the restoration side of things. The side stand had some pretty rough welds on it. I had to fill those welds up before it goes to powder coat. I can't use body filler obviously for pinholes with powder coat because when it goes in the oven, it will actually destroy it. So I've actually gone through and welded everything up, and we're ready to grind it back and send it to powder coat. All right, exciting stuff. So just got a little delivery here. So with the CB100, the customer wanted to upgrade the motor. He originally wanted to rebuild it, and I said, these things are expensive to get parts for, and at the end of the day, it's still a 100. So we've changed the plan, and we're going a 250cc Zonchen motor. Yeah, it's a Chinese motor, but I've run these before and they're friggin' brilliant. They last for ages, despite some of the negative things people say about them. Here we are. We have our new motors just arrived in the box, good to go. So I'm pretty pumped. We're gonna get that happening. New muffler in here, new stainless steel muffler to go on it. So now my job is to get this motor mocked up in the frame, get it to fit, obviously, wire it all up, and then we'll go from there. So let's get that happening. So you can see this bolt lines up, this bolt lines up, motor fits in nicely. So I only need to basically make a bracket for here on both sides and the top bracket, and that's it. She's good. It's just awesome. And the power to weight on these things is just insane. So this will be a fun little bike when she's done. So for anyone that hasn't used one of these before, this is why I get excited. It saves me so much time. These motors bolt straight into a CB100. You've just got to change the front bracket and the top mount, but they slot straight into the frame. Just slap together some top brackets. So this is an original bolt hole here, as you can see, 1, 2. This one here I drilled out and then I put a crush tube in there, which is actually a solid piece of aluminium, so I can pick up off that hole now. So I've got one here, and one here. So these will be CNC cut out, so I've literally just done them as a quick mock-up to make sure everything's going to fit, and then we'll CNC cut them so they look clean and tidy. And now I'm on to the bottom ones. So one set to go. The engine is now in and all mocked up. Everything's in where it needs to go. The exhaust I'm going to modify and change the angle of the back half, but I've got it all in now, mocked up. I've got it all wired up to make sure that it's going to start. So this will be our first attempt at getting this thing to start and make sure that all the wiring's correct, because a lot of the times on these bikes, some of the wiring is back to front when they come from standard. So I've done enough to know what goes where. So hopefully we'll get this right. So I'll spray a bit of fuel in the carburetor and get this thing to fire, hopefully. Key on. With that little bit of fuel, it starts, we're good to go. Next step is to bend up a hoop for the frame. So you can see I've cut this frame on a 45, so it's going to come along and then step up with a hoop at the end. So my job now is to bend up a hoop, fabricate that, weld it to the frame, and weld on any tabs that we need for indicators, lights, etc. And then we'll get this thing stripped back down and ready for powder coat. All right, so I'm gonna cut this on a 35-degree angle. So it's slanted back about like so, roughly, about there, I think it was. So we'll get that cut and we'll weld them together. The hoop's all welded on now, as you can see, in 2 pieces, and I've cut into the frame. So basically I've cut down on an angle and then down, so the hoop tucks in, and this frame, original one, sits on top of that one, and then this one goes down into this gusset. So now I've got to weld a tab in this section here for the fender, as I said, and then I need to weld some tabs that hang down below here for the indicators to mount behind the shock because the indicators need to be behind the shockies by law. So we'll get those welded up shortly. I'll make them up, weld them on, and then we're good to start making our seat pan. And then we'll pull the motor out once that's all made and get this frame sent off to powder coat. All right, so our wheels have arrived. I've changed them out. We've got a black rim, new spokes, new hubs. So let's check them out. We've just arrived in the mail and I'm fucking excited. Woo! Brand new rims, new spokes, new hubs, new bushes, everything. So that'll be the rear one, obviously. And we'll check out the front one. There's our front one again, new rims, hub, spokes, everything. Thing's gonna look mint. All right, let's get the bearings put into them now. New bearings, new seals, grease them all up, get them fit up, get our tires on, we'll be good to go. Wheels are back, tires are on. We've got our Chinko tires fitted up, looking sick. So the customer's dropped off another set of wheels for us because the original wheels that he dropped off were just a spare set and we were missing a fair few different things. So we're missing our chain adjusters and this bearing, dust cap and some other bits and pieces. So we've got another set of wheels to take everything off that we need. So I'm gonna get them stripped down now and then we'll get all those parts put onto the new wheels. Let's go. These bolts drop into the wheel and then this slides into your rear sprocket and locks in. So I need these bolts, that's what I'm missing. I don't need this, but I need these 4 bolts, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need this circlip which holds the sprocket on. Now I've got to get the seal out. So, and then I also need on the inside of the wheel here, in between both bearings, this crush tube. So I need to get these bearings out, throw them away, and use this crush tube in the new wheel, as it didn't come with one. So let's get that out. That's the easiest bearing I've ever fucking removed from the wheel in my entire life. That's the crush tube. So we go bearing, crush tube, another bearing, and that stops these bearings from caving in and collapsing once you tighten the wheel axle. All right, so that is all I need from that wheel. So that is done. Actually, I lie. I also need this chain adjuster. I'll get that out of there and keep those. Back through there. Don't need any of that. So we don't lose it, we'll pop that back in the old wheel, like so. All right, so the customer can get that back and now we'll get the other one stripped down. All right, so there's our other one. So again, bearing, crush tube, bearing, and then our dust seals. We also need a speedo drive out of this front wheel to go back in because it also works as a spacer. We're going to get that out of there soon and get this new one put together. Let's do it. All right, together. All right, so I'm going to clean out the CB100 tank here behind me. So I've got a little trick. Before I put a tank liner kit through it, the tank liner kit comes with an acid and like a pre-wash and then the liner. But before I do that, I've got a little trick. So I use CLR, I pour that in there with some warm water, and then I put in some tech screws and I rattle them round, and what it does, it'll scrape all the rust off the inside, because obviously just a solution will sort of wash over the rust, whereas the tech screws will scratch the rust and get any loose rust off on the inside. All right, so you can see I've started to sort of paint strip it already, so it needs a few more coats, but I was just testing out how thick a stripper I'd need to use to get this paint off. But it's only going to need probably one more solid coat and that'll get that off. So on the inside, I've poured in my CLR, so I don't need any more, but you can hear it sloshing around in there. So the next step, I'll put in my handfuls of tech screws, like so. Alright, so you can hear them in there. Pop the lid back on, or the cap. Alright, take the cap off. Looking pretty good. I've got most of the rust off on the inside now, so I can get all my screws out. You can see the colour of that. We've actually got off heaps of rust out of the tank. One left. There she goes, no more. Most of the rust is out of there. You can see the side walls. There's a little bit of rust down in the bottom corner, but hopefully my tank liner kit will fix that. But I've cleaned up most of it. The whole inside was as black as that patch there, so it's cleaned out pretty well. And I think I'll be able to save it. You can see there's no major rust behind the paint, so I think I'm going to be able to save this tank. I've got most of the rust out of there now, so I can now run my tank liner kit through. I've loosened up all the surface rust on the inside, so when I put the acid through, that should hopefully break that down and get more of the rust out of it, and then we'll put the liner through. The tank is back. It's been completely, as I said, laser cleaned, looking schmick. So I'm actually going to replace this fuel tap, so I'll leave that in before I do this tank sealer. So this is the product. It is PPC fuel tank sealer. So basically what it is, it's like a 2-pack paint, almost. So I'll just open it for you. All right, so it's like a silver 2-pack paint. So what we're going to do is we're going to pour that into the tank, like so. Now, as I said, leave that fuel tap in, and if you don't, it's all gonna leak out the bottom, but don't leave that fuel tap in if you're going to reuse it. Just block it up with some rubber, a rubber bung or something. All right, so I've poured that in there and you can kind of see the silver in there. So what I like to do is sort of roll it round inside the tank to get it into all the creases, because the main areas is down the bottom of the tanks where they rust out. And you can see on the inside here, if I get up close, it's a little bit, I guess, pitted from the rust. So they are thinner areas, obviously, so the metal's been thinned out there. So I want to run that tank liner into those corners as best as I can. Slosh it round like so. And once I get it, I welded up some holes here also. I tacked up a few holes and pulled the dent out. So I definitely want to make sure that I get it all on that area there, and you can see it pouring down through here. And I'll see if I get it dripping in there. It's a bit hard to see, but anyway, this is the main area I want to get it, and down the bottom here. Also, they rust out behind the badges, so it's good to try and make sure it goes on there. So we'll just move it all around, make sure we get full coverage as best as possible over everything, like this. Get it down in those corners and over all those areas that look a bit sus on the inside. So I'll put the cap back on and I'm just going to sit this tank on an angle so we can run down into this bottom edge for about 20 minutes. And then after that, I'll then flip the tank over and we'll let it sit for another 20 minutes on the other side. So obviously it's on this angle now. We'll come back and turn it over here and then we'll sit it like this. And just to get it to sit in all those areas that we're worried about. And then it should be fine. We'll leave it overnight, come back, and we're good to go. The tank is being painted in its black base coat. So I've masked up the top section as I want to keep that black. Then I'm going to mask up the sides and leave this shadow section here as I'm going to paint it gold. So once I've painted that gold, I'll mask over the top of that. I'll paint my sides red, take all the tape off, cover the whole thing in a matte clear. Once that dries, send that back, and then I'll re-clear the sides in a gloss. So we've got a flat black through the top and then gloss sides. First coat, we've got about 2 or 3 more to go, and then we'll run our clear. So the frame is back from powder coat. As you can see, tank's on there. You can see we've got the new YSS shocks sitting on there just to hold our lower swing arm into place. Got all new bushers put into the swing arm, motors in, fully wired up. My job now is to get in, make a template for the seat pan, and then cut it out of aluminium, bend it up, bolt it down, make sure it all fits perfectly, and then get it off to the upholsterer. So let's get into it. Coming together. So we've got this far with it, and I've just mounted the new speedo on the handlebars and triple tree. So we've got a little Moto Gadget mini speedometer, and it mounts the handlebars and top clamp. So that's the view we're going to be looking at. So when we get that on the bike, it's going to be sitting like so. So it's coming together really well. I'm pumped. So my next job is, I've got the seat pan made there. It fits in really snug. I'll give you a bit of a rundown on how that goes on. So that will slide down under the frame like so. And then we've got our bolt holes to bolt it on. I need somewhere now to put all my electrics. So I've got my rectifier regulator, my starter relay, etc. So I thought I'll get some sheet metal and I'll fold it up and I'll put some bead rolls in it, so that'll strengthen it right up, and I need to weld some sides on it. But it's going to sit up and pick up off this hole here, and then I'm going to drill 2 holes in this back section, and it's basically going to bolt in through here and through that first hole, and it'll sit there like that, and all my electrics can come in through the front, nice and neat up underneath the frame there, and they'll come in through the side, and I'll have sides on it, so looking at the bike from side on, you'll only see a black box once it's all painted. And I can run all my wires, as I said, through the front, and they'll come in and connect up to the start relay. So I'll get back into finishing this off and paint it. I have the bike almost done. So my job now is to make a battery box, which is going to sit in this position here. I was going to put it under the bike, but I think it's going to hang too low. So got all the front end pretty much back together. Got a couple of little modifications to make there. But yeah, we're getting really close. All the wiring's done now. So this box that I made is all in. The wiring's hidden under there nice and neat. I've got to finish this exhaust off. It's just sitting on there at the moment, so I need to make some mounts for that. But I'm in the process now of making a battery box. So come up here, starting to make that. So got to cut the sides and we'll tack them on and then get them welded up. Need to cut this section here out so we can get the terminals on without any of the wires obviously shorting out on the metal. And then I need to make a cover for the top to hide that and make it nice and neat. Fenders are all fitted. Looking good. I kept that fender up nice and high because I had very limited room under here and I didn't want to risk it rubbing. So I've got one sort of there, back one here. Get those clean lines, gave us heaps of room. Tire clearance there. Looking good. Battery box is mounted and it's left me that nice clean V under the seat there, which the customer wanted. You can see our electrical box is sitting up there that we made earlier. We've got our speedo all wired up now, so when you turn the key on, it'll come up with the speed, and now we can adjust everything by this button here. So you press it once, trip, again, odometer, press it again, RPM, press it again, we've got time, press it one more time, and we're back to speed. We've got our starter button over here, and the horns over here. So we're all sweet. We've got our little LED indicators all hooked up. Looking $1,000,000. She's finally done, completely back together, ready to go. Customers on their way, can't wait to see his reaction. So this is it, guys. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for following along with the build. Till next time.